Hello and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, the President considers strengthening security in the Gulf of Guinea with a new multinational task force set to begin patrol. CCT chairman accepts new charges from federal government's lawyer against Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki as defense lawyers get 10 working days to study new document. Senate President pleads not guilty to new corruption charges preferred by the prosecution. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP, zones chairmanship of the PDP to the northeast ahead of National Convention. And United Nations describes the situation in Syria's city of Aleppo as catastrophic after dozens of people killed in attacks on targets, including a hospital.
And on business news tonight, improving liquidity in African markets is the concern of 26 African stock exchanges as they brainstorm in Lagos.
On sports news tonight, League Management Company awards disputed game to Enugu Rangers and Giwa FC gets heavy fine for misconduct.
We begin tonight with a stern warning to terrorists and criminals that the Gulf of Guinea will no longer be easily accessible. This is according to the President, who says a multinational task force to patrol the Gulf of Guinea is being set up. He says the waters of the Gulf of Guinea will be keenly monitored to prevent terrorists from taking control of territorial waters. President Muhammadu Buhari, in a meeting with the French Minister of Defense, Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian, said that the patrol teams are expected to curb oil theft and piracy. Both countries also agreed to facilitate training for military personnel aimed at winning the war against global terror.
This is to strengthen our cooperation between our border countries, and France has a great influence on all these countries, and that is why we're looking forward to have a beautiful cooperation between us and France. As we are fighting terrorism in connection with France and other neighboring countries, will give us an impact in controlling or in bringing end to terrorism within our sub-region and in the world as in general.
Il s'agit d'abord du combat commun contre le terrorisme et singulièrement contre Boko Haram.
In this document that we have signed together, there are in fact two major causes for concerns. There is first of all the fight against terrorism and specifically against Boko Haram organizations is the same fight that we have in France, because these terrorist groups that are hitting Nigeria are the same who are also attacking France.
Soucieux de seconder les efforts du Nigeria dans ce domaine.
The second field in which we will enhance cooperation is that of maritime insecurity. We are extremely happy to help Nigeria in this, which is going to be a much longer term effort in order to guarantee security in the waters of the Gulf of Guinea.
The Code of Conduct Tribunal has dismissed an application by the Senate President asking the chairman of the tribunal to hands off his case for alleged bias. Ruling on the application, the chairman of the tribunal, Mr. Danladi Umar, said the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is an independent organization that is at liberty to investigate and prosecute. Mr. Umar also held that the EFCC had carried out a thorough investigation and cleared him of any wrongdoing over a year ago because there was no evidence against him. He said the EFCC is not answerable to the Attorney General, as argued by the defendants.
Defendant still has his options. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, has pleaded not guilty to an amended 16-count charge of alleged false declaration of assets filed against him by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The amended charges, which are coming more than 7 months after the commencement of his trial, replaced the 13-count charge initially preferred against him. The new charges accuse the Senate President of failing to declare ownership of an American Express card account. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafor, reports.
These praises by his supporters have become usual with the arrival of the Senate President. But away from all of that, the tribunal got down to business. The cross-examination of the first prosecution witness, Mr. Michael Wetkas, was supposed to commence. However, the prosecutor informed the tribunal that he had filed an amended charge against the Senate President and should be given leave to withdraw the 13-count charge for which the Senate President had pleaded not guilty. According to the prosecutor, the amended charge is to accommodate the evidence that had been given during the trial, which revealed more facts that are relevant to the case. Opposing the application, counsel to the Senate President, Mr. Paul Osoro, says the request can only be accepted by the tribunal if the facts which necessitated the amendment is placed before the tribunal. But in the instant case, there is no fact before the tribunal. He added that the application should have come by way of a motion, and because it was not properly filed, the defense will lose the opportunity to react to the amendment. But again, the prosecutor told the tribunal that in line with the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, amendments need not come by formal application or a conditioned precedent other than it should be before judgment is delivered. Ruling on the application, the chairman of the tribunal, Mr. Umar Deladi, agreed with the prosecution that the amendment of a charge need not come through a formal application so long as it is done before judgment is delivered. The 16-count charge include 3 additional fresh charges, which amongst other things accuse the Senate President of owning an American Express card account which he did not declare. It also accused him of not declaring an additional property in Lagos State. The Senate President pleaded not guilty to the charges.
As we continue the cross-examination, don't forget that we are cross-examining counts by counts, and we bring out the weaknesses in the different counts. Are we going to continue amending at each stage? That's the part that I do wonder, but we'll see how it goes. But the most important thing is we are up to it, and we have seen the new counts, and we would work based on those new counts.
In the course of giving evidence, we discover a lot of additional facts that require amendment, particularly the salary. It was when we were trying to get the statement that we got that he was receiving salary while he was senator. So, and we got a lot of new facts that necessitated the amendment of the charge.
When the tribunal resumes on May 10th, the trial will not start afresh. Instead, the defense will continue the cross-examination of the chief prosecution witness. The trial was adjourned to May 10th to enable the defense study the amended charges that were read to the Senate President afresh. Amaka Ukafo, Channels Television News.
The Senate has called on security agencies to conduct a thorough investigation into the attacks on Nimbo community in Enugu State and ensure the perpetrators are brought to justice. The Upper Legislative Chamber condemned Monday's attack on the community in Enugu State, where suspected herdsmen killed an unconfirmed number of people and burnt some buildings.
A minute's silence in the Senate to honor Nigerians killed in Enugu and other communities by suspected herdsmen.
May the souls of our brothers and sisters who died at Pt.1 and all other people of Nigeria that died in similar circumstances rest in perfect peace.
But the minute's silence cannot bring back those killed by suspected herdsmen and curb further killings in the country. The most recent attack in Nimbo community of Uzonwani, local government area of Enugu State, has left many Nigerians baffled at the killings and destruction of properties. Federal lawmakers in the Senate want urgent solutions to this problem.
There is widespread fear of more attacks as there has been recurring attacks by herdsmen on communities in Uzonwani local government area.
My suggestion is that we can't run away from establishing grazing land. They should acquire land within the vicinity where cows are being raised. If you go to UK, you see ranches all over. These cows are fed fat and will produce even more meat and milk. If we do that, and Nigerian cows are being restrained in ranches, I don't think the Malians or the Niger Republic will have the God to enter our hinterland.
The idea of governors that don't have a means of commanding a force to enforce security in their own state has reduced our states to senior prefects who can only exist at the mercy of the school principal. What we must do, I believe, is to get back to say, if any state or even local government wants to have a means of protecting itself, so be it.
We shouldn't even have discussed this in the open. We should have gone into a closed-door session on this issue where we will be able to provide solutions without the public knowing, so that at the end we can make proper representation to the leadership of this country and to the leadership of the security services, so that at the end of the day we can nip this problem in the bud.
After the debate, the Senate set up an ad hoc committee with representatives from each geopolitical zone to meet urgently and proffer solutions to this problem. The Senate also resolved to invite security chiefs to brief the upper chamber on the movement of fleeing terrorists to ensure that measures are put in place to forestall a spread of terrorist activities all over the country. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, International Labour Organization advocates improved workers' safety in Nigeria. Stay with us.